Hey guys, what's going on? If you're new here and you like home arcade, hit like, hit subscribe. But today we're talking about why I think Arcade1Up is using coin doors on all their newer cabinets instead of those logos. And it's not for aesthetic reasons. I think there's a deeper meaning behind it. So let's talk about how these new lineup of cabinets, this is called the Legacy Edition. It's going to come with 12 games each, but a printed graphic on the front for a coin door instead of those logos. And you go on to the other cabinets like the X-Men. This is one of their newer designs that actually does have more of a full coin door. It's a physical piece. It's plastic. I think it even screws in. Same with Dragon's Lair. You can see they moved the logos to the bottom here to make it very clear that this comes with 3 games on it. But again, it has that newer version. This is not printed on. This is a physical piece. And the potential cabinet, Space Ace, they're still getting feedback from the community if this is something they should actually make. But again, it has the logos at the bottom and it has that plastic mold on the front. Then you jump to Killer Instinct. Now, this one kind of breaks my theory. We're going to get to that in just a second. But this one does have the logos on it. But I think this one, they needed to put the Battletoads on there to make it clear that this cabinet has Battletoads on it. Probably the Battletoad folks were like, hey, can we get our logo on the front? They're like, yeah, we'll make sure it's there. But again, this has the physical mold. So we're going to talk about why I think they're moving in that direction. And it's actually because of this firmware update that came out. It's all related to this. So this was an accident that Arcade1Up they made, right? So Miss Pac-Man head-to-head firmware update. The story behind this is the cabinet came out, or the head-to-head cabinet came out, and it only had 8 games on it. But the packaging said it had 10, and fans kind of flipped out and said, wait a second, like I thought it had 10, or I discovered it could have had 10. Give me those other 2 games. So they're like, you know what? True enough, my bad. Sorry about that. Here's a firmware update that adds those 2 games. But wait a second. This actually proves out that Arcade1Up can add more games down the line through a firmware update. We're also going to talk about Outrun. So here's a theory that I have. So you may know about the Outrun cabinet, and it was supposed to have an Easter egg on it. Now, I don't think we're hearing the whole story, and this is just my guess. This is me reading between the lines in the community, but there's 2 versions of the Outrun cabinet. First, there was the sit-down. That one's already out. And then you have the stand-up version. And then later, with the Outrun, they ended up coming out with a bonus version, a bonus firmware. This firmware update adds additional games to it as well. It adds one more game, Rad Rally. And I'm wondering if the reason why they came out with this free bonus game is actually maybe the stand-up version already had Rad Rally on it. Like they're in development. They're like, hey, we're going to put Rad Rally on the stand-up version. But then they're like, wait a second, you can't do that. What about all the people that bought the sit-down version that doesn't have Rad Rally? How are we going to do this? They're like, well, let's just do a little patch. You take this update, put it on the thumb drive, connect it to the PCB, and boom, all of a sudden it unlocks Rad Rally. Well, why would it unlock Rad Rally? Well, maybe they built these cabinets together and the PCB actually contains both games, because it doesn't look like this one's weird. I don't think it's really a firmware update, because if you look at the instructions on how to do it, it's like you stick the thumb drive in and then like there's this split-second longer delay when the menu's just about to start, and all of a sudden it unlocks this game. It's like the firmware already had the game in it, and this is just like an unlock key for it, like maybe the same unlock key that they would use in the manufacturing process when they're going to, make the stand-up version for the sit-down. Just my guess, but here's the point. Think about this. If they're going to do firmware updates down the line, and you're going to be able to add more games, maybe even buy more games, it's kind of odd that you'll have decals for only like 8 games, but then you all of a sudden have 2 more extra games. So some people get OCD about that. What I mean by OCD is just they want the purity of the cabinet. I mean, if we have icons on the front that have 10 games, but all of a sudden the inside has 20 games because I bought like this package update to add a whole bunch more Atari games, like 8 more Atari games to my 12-in-1. So now the icons don't really fit, but it kind of works out okay if the fact is that the decals are not there on the front, right? You just simply have a coin door. So think about that. What if you bought the Atari Legacy Edition? It only comes with 12 games, but you're missing the game like Quantum, hello, why isn't Quantum on the Legacy Edition? And I'm thinking, man, if I jump to this version and it doesn't have Quantum, is that something they could add as a bonus game down the line? Is that something they could unlock? Could I pay $50 more and then all of a sudden download a firmware update that's like unique to my cabinet, and then it adds a handful of more Atari games that fit with that same control lineup? People have been asking for more games, more AAA titles, and maybe this is a way that Arcade1Up can do it. Because think about it, if Arcade1Up can get away with selling a cabinet to you for $399, but it doesn't have all those extra games, but down the line you could add more games because you pay just a little bit more, they can work out those license deals. They've been talking about how when you first buy the cabinet, maybe you're going to get it for $299. It's going to have that entry point of $299, but then you can add on more things from their website. Now, of course, they've been meeting like the riser or a light up marquee if you buy a cabinet that doesn't have those things. But what about adding more games, but more AAA titles, not console ports, not games that I would never play, but games that are actually super enjoyable? I think it's possible that that's the direction they're going, and that's why they're putting coin doors on there, because if they're going to sell you more games down the line, then you don't have to worry about the logos being a mismatch. You just have a really cool coin door on the front. So that's all the time I have for today. Please like and subscribe if you're new here, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.